everyone. So you're trying to figure out what's going on with rising interest rates and what they mean for Silicon Valley real estate.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a lot to process, but
it is.
that's what we're here for.
Yeah.
Today, we're going to extract those key insights from our expert analysis so you can feel good about navigating this new world.
Yeah.
And believe me, it's pretty surprising stuff. For example, mortgage rates have basically doubled since 2021. They've gone from something like 3%
Right.
to a crazy 7 or 8% now. So think about it. If you were looking at $1 million home back then,
Oh, wow.
your monthly payment would be over $2,400 more now.
Yeah, it's a huge shift.
Yeah.
It's a game changer. And what's really interesting is how it's impacting different parts of the market in such different ways.
Okay.
Like take homes in that $800,000 to $1.5 million range.
Yeah.
You know what experts are calling the mid-tier market?
Right. Mid-tier mayhem.
Exactly. They're really feeling the pressure now.
But why is that? I mean, is it just because they're more expensive?
Well, it's not just the price tag. It's more about the buyers in
Yeah.
this segment. They tend to rely more on financing. So when those monthly payments go way up, suddenly that dream home is out of reach financially.
Right.
So they have to adjust their expectations, maybe look at smaller homes or different neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Some are even putting their home search on hold completely.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It seems like the market is kind of taking a breather after that craziness of 2021, but with fewer buyers out there.
Yeah.
That's got to be changing things for sellers too, right?
Absolutely. Those days of bidding wars and offers way above asking price are over.
Oh, wow.
Sellers really have to be realistic about their pricing now and how they present their homes. They can't just put up a for sale sign and expect offers to come flooding in anymore.
So less competition, pickier buyers. Sounds like there might be some opportunities out there.
There are.
If you're a buyer and you can handle those higher rates,
Right.
this could be your chance to get a good deal.
Exactly. It's a great time for buyers to negotiate. They have more leverage now, especially if they're well prepared and know what they want.
Now I'm curious about the luxury market, those homes that are $2 million and up.
Yeah.
Are they feeling the effects too, or are they in a different world?
It's definitely a different world up there. This segment of the market is much less sensitive to interest rate increases.
Okay.
Because a lot of the buyers are either paying cash or they're using smaller loans.
So they're playing a longer game.
Right.
Looking for value and waiting for the right property.
Exactly.
Without worrying too much about those monthly payment changes.
Exactly. They're not as worried about the short-term ups and downs of the market. And with more inventory available now than during the peak, they have more options to choose from and more time to make a decision.
That's interesting. But there's one thing that really stood out in the research, this increase in cash buyers.
Oh, yeah.
And not just in the luxury market, it's happening everywhere.
It is.
So what's driving that? Is it just because of all the tech wealth in Silicon Valley?
Well, that's definitely part of it. But it's a little more complicated than that. You see, when financing becomes more expensive and more complex, cash becomes really powerful.
I see.
It takes away the uncertainty for sellers, and it speeds up the whole closing process. So cash buyers have a real advantage.
So they're not just showing off their financial strength.
Right.
They're making the whole transaction smoother.
Exactly. And there's another layer to this as well.
Oh.
Some experts believe that what we're seeing is a move towards stability. With all the economic uncertainty out there, cash buyers are looking for safe investments.
Yeah.
And real estate, especially in a desirable market like Silicon Valley, makes a lot of sense.
But then what happens to those buyers who need financing?
Right.
Are they just completely priced out?
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
Our research shows that more and more sellers are getting creative to help buyers bridge that gap.
Really? Tell me more about that. What kind of creative solutions are we talking about?
Well, we're seeing things like rate buydowns, where the seller actually helps to lower the buyer's interest rate for a certain amount of time. This can make those monthly payments more manageable, especially in those first few years of the loan.
So it's like a little help from the seller to get the buyer over that initial hump of higher rates.
Exactly. And there are different types of buydowns too. For example, a 2-1 buydown would mean the buyer gets a lower rate for the first 2 years of the mortgage, then it goes up a little in year 3, and then reaches the full market rate in year 4 and after that.
Okay, so it's not a permanent fix.
Right.
But it gives the buyer some breathing room. But what's the catch? Is
Yeah.
the seller just losing out on profit?
Not necessarily. Remember, in a buyer's market, sellers need to be more flexible.
Right.
A rate buydown can be the difference between selling their home quickly or having it sit on the market for months.
So it's a strategic move. And speaking of strategy, what are some other tools that buyers can use in this high-rate environment?
Well, aside from rate buydowns, there are seller credits, which can help with those upfront closing costs. Those can be pretty substantial, especially in a place like Silicon Valley.
Right, every bit helps. But let's step back for a second and talk about the bigger picture. If you're a buyer right now, how should you even approach your search? Is it all about negotiation now, or are there other things to consider?
Negotiation is definitely key, but it's not just about haggling over the price. Buyers need to be strategic about what they're looking for. For instance, are you open to considering a fixer-upper to get more for your money?
Okay.
Or maybe exploring neighborhoods that are a bit further out from the city center?
So being open to different possibilities, maybe expanding your search a little.
Exactly. And it's also about being realistic with your budget.
Yeah.
With higher rates, that dream home might be out of reach for now. It's really important to crunch the numbers carefully and factor in not just the purchase price, but also things like property taxes, insurance, potential maintenance costs, and even those HOA fees you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, those HOAs can really add up, especially in those communities with lots of amenities. But what about refinancing down the line?
Yeah.
Should buyers be thinking about that when making their decision?
It's definitely worth considering. If you think interest rates might come down, eventually refinancing could let you lock in a lower rate and potentially save thousands of dollars over the life of your loan.
So it's kind of like playing the long game.
In a way, yes.
Yeah.
But it's important to remember that refinancing isn't a guaranteed solution. It depends on a few things, including your credit score, the amount of equity you have in your home, and what the overall market conditions are like.
So it's a tool in the toolbox,
Right.
but not a magic wand. Now let's switch gears and talk about the sellers. What's their strategy in this new environment?
Well, they need to adapt, that's for sure. They need to understand that they're not calling the shots anymore. Those days of just listing their home and watching the offers roll in are gone.
So no more setting unrealistic prices and expecting a bidding war.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Overpricing a home in this market is a recipe for disaster. Buyers are doing their homework. They know what comparable homes are selling for, and they won't think twice about walking away if a property doesn't seem like a good value.
So it's all about finding that sweet spot, a price that's attractive to buyers but also fair to the seller?
Right. And that takes a deep understanding of the local market, recent sales data, and even the little quirks of specific neighborhoods.
Sounds like you need a skilled real estate agent.
Absolutely. A good agent can be invaluable for sellers in this market. They can help them figure out their pricing strategy, highlight the home's best features, and even connect them with potential buyers who are a good fit.
So pricing is crucial, but what about how the home is presented?
Right.
Is that still as important as it used to be?
It's more important than ever. In a buyer's market, homes need to stand out from the crowd. That means making sure the property is in tip-top shape, both inside and out.
So no more ignoring those leaky faucets or that peeling paint.
Not if you want to attract serious buyers. It's all about creating that great first impression, showcasing the best parts of the home and minimizing anything that might turn people off.
So decluttering, staging, professional photography.
Right.
All those things that make a house feel like a home.
Exactly. And don't underestimate the power of curb appeal. A well-maintained exterior can really draw potential buyers in.
It's like putting your best foot forward. You want to make a great first impression.
Yeah.
So we've talked about pricing, presentation, and those creative financing options like rate buy downs and seller credits.
Yeah.
It seems like both buyers and sellers have a lot to manage. Is there anything else they should keep in mind?
Well, we've been focusing on the practical aspects of buying and selling.
Right.
But there's another side to this whole real estate game that often gets overlooked, the emotional side.
Ah, yes. Buying or selling a home is a huge life decision, and it's rarely just about logic. Emotions run high, and it's easy to get swept up in the excitement or the stress of it all,
Right.
especially in a market as volatile as this one.
Exactly.
Hmm.
And that's something we'll explore in detail in our next segment. We'll talk about the psychology of real estate, how to manage your expectations, and how to stay grounded throughout the process. You won't want to miss it.
Okay, so we're back and ready to dig into those creative financing strategies. You mentioned rate buy downs before the break.
Right.
They sound kind of interesting. Can you explain those a little more?
Sure. So with a rate buy down, the seller basically helps out by temporarily lowering the buyer's interest rate,
Okay.
which makes those monthly payments easier to handle, especially in the first few years of the loan.
So it's like the seller giving the buyer a little boost to help them get over that initial hurdle of higher rates.
Exactly. And there are different kinds of buy downs too. Like a 2-1 buy down, for example, would mean the buyer gets a lower rate for the first 2 years in the mortgage.
Okay.
Then it goes up a bit in year 3, and then in year 4 it goes up to the full market rate and stays there.
I see. So it's not a permanent solution,
Right.
but it gives the buyer some time to adjust. But what's the downside? Does the seller just end up making less money?
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
Remember, in a buyer's market, sellers need to be more flexible.
Right.
Offering a rate buy-down can be the difference between selling their house quickly or having it sit on the market for a long time.
So it's a strategic move. And speaking of strategy, what other options are out there for buyers in this high rate environment?
Well, in addition to rate buy-downs, there are seller credits,
Right.
which can help with those upfront closing costs. Those can be pretty significant, especially in a market like Silicon Valley.
That makes sense. Any help is good, really.
Absolutely.
But let's zoom out for a second and talk about the bigger picture. If you're a buyer in this market, how do you even start your search?
Right.
Is it all about negotiation now, or are there other factors to think about?
Negotiation is definitely important, but it's not just about getting the lowest price. Buyers need to be smart about what they're looking for.
Hmm.
For example, would you consider buying a fixer-upper to get more for your money?
Okay.
Or maybe looking in neighborhoods that are a little further away from the city center?
So being open to different options, maybe expanding your search criteria a little.
Exactly. And it's also about being realistic about your budget.
Yeah.
With these higher rates, that dream home might not be affordable right now. It's really important to do the math carefully and think about not just the purchase price, but also things like property taxes, insurance, possible maintenance costs,
Mm-hmm.
and even those HOA fees we talked about earlier.
Right. Those HOAs can be a big expense, especially in those communities with a lot of amenities. But what about the possibility of refinancing later on?
Right.
Is that something buyers should be factoring into their decision?
It's definitely something to consider. If you think there's a chance that interest rates might go down in the future, refinancing could allow you to get a lower rate and potentially save a lot of money over the life of your loan.
So it's kind of like taking a long-term approach.
Yeah, you could say that.
Yeah.
But it's important to keep in mind that refinancing isn't a guaranteed solution. It depends on things like your credit score, how much equity you have in your home, and the overall market conditions.
So it's a useful tool,
Right.
but not a magic bullet. Okay, now let's shift gears and talk about the sellers. What's their plan in this new reality?
Well, they have to adapt, for sure. They need to realize that they're not in control anymore. The days of just putting their home on the market and getting a ton of offers are over.
So no more setting ridiculously high prices and hoping for a bidding war.
Exactly. Overpricing a home in this market is a big mistake.
Okay.
Buyers are doing their research, they know what similar homes are selling for, and they're not afraid to walk away if a property isn't priced right.
So it's all about finding that balance, a price that's appealing to buyers, but also fair to the seller.
Exactly. And that requires a really good understanding of the local market, recent sales data, and even the unique characteristics of different neighborhoods.
Sounds like you need a good real estate agent.
Absolutely. A
Okay.
skilled agent can be a lifesaver for sellers in this market. They can help them determine the right price, emphasize the best parts of the home, and even find potential buyers who are a good fit.
So pricing is super important, but what about how the home is presented?
Right.
Does that still matter as much as it used to?
It matters more than ever. In a buyer's market, homes have to stand out. That means making sure the property is in excellent condition, both inside and out.
So no more ignoring things like leaky faucets or peeling paint.
Not if you want to get serious buyers.
Yeah.
It's all about making that first impression count, highlighting the best features of the home, and minimizing anything that might be a turnoff.
So decluttering, staging, professional photography.
Exactly.
All those things that make a house feel inviting.
Precisely. And don't forget about curb appeal. A well-maintained exterior can make a big difference in attracting potential buyers.
It's like putting your best foot forward. You want to make a good first impression. Okay, so we've covered pricing, presentation, and those creative financing options like rate buy-downs and seller credits. Seems like there's a lot for both buyers and sellers to think about. Anything else they should be aware of?
Well, we've been talking a lot about the practical side of buying and selling. But there's another aspect to this whole real estate thing that people often forget about, the emotional side.
Yes. Buying or selling a home is a huge life decision, and it's rarely purely rational. Emotions can run high, and it's easy to get caught up in the excitement or the stress of the whole process.
Exactly.
Especially in a market as unpredictable as this one.
Absolutely. And that's actually what we're going to dive into in our next segment. We'll talk about the psychology of real estate, how to manage your expectations, and how to stay grounded throughout the experience.
Yeah.
You definitely don't want to miss that.
Okay, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive into Silicon Valley real estate. We've talked about market trends, we've talked about financial strategies.
Right.
But now let's get real about something that's just as important,
Yeah,
the emotional roller coaster that comes with buying or selling a home.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Real estate is about more than just bricks and mortar. It's about hopes and dreams, anxieties and uncertainties,
Yeah.
especially in a market as fast-paced as Silicon Valley, where the stakes are high and the competition can be intense.
So how do we navigate all those emotions? What's the key to staying sane and making good decisions when we're feeling pulled in different directions?
Well, it starts with understanding the psychology at play.
Okay.
Buying or selling a home is a major life event, and it often triggers a whole range of emotions from excitement and anticipation to fear and doubt.
I know exactly what you mean. Remember when we were looking for a house?
Yeah.
Every open house felt like an episode of House Hunters. We were projecting our whole future onto these empty spaces.
Yeah, it's easy to get caught up in the fantasy of what a home could be and lose sight of the practical realities. That's why it's so important to manage your expectations right from the start.
So how do we do that? Should we just try to ignore all those feelings and approach this like a cold business deal?
Not necessarily. It's not about ignoring your emotions. It's about recognizing them and using them in a positive way.
Okay.
For buyers, this means figuring out what you absolutely need versus what would just be nice to have. Setting a realistic budget and being prepared to walk away if a property doesn't meet your needs or is just too expensive.
It's kind of like dating, right? You have your deal breakers and you stick to them even if that cute fixer-upper with the ocean view is tempting you.
Exactly. And for sellers, managing expectations is just as important. It's about understanding that the market sets the price, not your personal attachment to the property.
I bet that's tough for some sellers to accept, especially those who've put so much of themselves into their homes over the years.
It can be,
Yeah.
but a good real estate agent can really help them through that process by giving them honest feedback and realistic pricing strategies.
Okay, so we've got our expectations in check, but what about those times when the stress starts to get to you?
Yeah,
The endless paperwork, the back and forth negotiations, the fear of making a mistake. It can be overwhelming.
absolutely. That's where self-care and stress management become crucial.
Right.
It's really important to take breaks, rely on your support network, and do things that bring you joy and peace of mind.
So maybe not binge watching Selling Sunset while constantly checking Zillow.
Probably not the best strategy. Instead, try going for walks in nature, practicing mindfulness, or spending time with loved ones who can listen and offer a fresh perspective.
It's like that oxygen mask thing they tell you about on airplanes.
Mhm.
Take care of yourself first so you're in good shape to make those important decisions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And remember, you don't have to do this alone.
Right.
A trustworthy real estate agent, a financial advisor, even a therapist, these professionals can offer incredible support and guidance throughout the whole process.
It's like having a team of experts helping you climb Mount Everest. You might be the one doing the climbing, but they're there to help you navigate those tricky parts and reach the top safely. And just like climbing Everest, buying or selling a home can be tough,
Yeah.
but it can also be incredibly rewarding.
Well said. And remember, the end goal is to find a place where you can really thrive.
Yeah.
Whether it's a cozy starter home, a spacious family house, or a luxurious getaway. A place that feels right for you, for your lifestyle, and for your long-term goals. That's worth all the emotional ups and downs.
Absolutely. Well, it looks like we've reached the summit of our Silicon Valley real estate deep dive. We've covered the market trends, the financial strategies, and even the emotional side of things. I hope you feel like you have the knowledge to make smart decisions, whether you're buying, selling, or just keeping up with this ever-changing market.
It's been an interesting journey. And remember, knowledge is power, but it's only really powerful when you use it. So take what you've learned, do your research, connect with the right professionals, and go out there and make your real estate dreams happen.
And if you have any questions along the way, don't hesitate to reach out. We're always here to help you navigate the exciting and sometimes confusing world of real estate.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and until next time, happy house hunting.